Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Elwood, and you are watching The Political Vigilante. Back in the studio, rocking and rolling. A great way to support the show is go to patreon.com/Graham Elwood, where you can submit stories like this for me to cover. That's why I say you're all political vigilantes, because I'm just one guy in his apartment. You're all out there finding stuff that I can report on that we give a wider voice to. So this was submitted by Independent Left News. Independent Left News, thank you so much for supporting the show. Pentagon fails another audit, will likely get budget increase from Congress anyway. What? The democratically controlled Congress is going to give more money for the war machine? That's never happened, except for every time since Congress has been controlled by the Democrats for the last 2 years. They've approved every one of Trump's budget. Democrats in the Senate did it. Like, unbelievable. Auditors now say the military may be able to pass an audit before the end of the next decade. Boy, can you imagine any other business being run this way? Can you imagine? Right? Like, these conservatives love to run your business and tax and spend Democrats. Like, that's this old, like, Republican talking point. The tax and spend Democrats. Give me a break. Both parties bend over and give money for war at every turn, and no one holds them accountable. It's weird. So why did, like, someone have to dig this story up? One of my followers send it to me through Patreon. Shouldn't we all know this story? Like, shouldn't CNN and Fox all be covering this? Nope. Pentagon's comptroller told Reuters that it would be another 7 years before the department can pass an audit, something it has never accomplished. The Pentagon has never passed an audit. Never, ever. See, could you, individual person out there, a small business owner watching this show, could you not pass an IRS audit ever and still be in business? If the IRS gave you an audit and you didn't pass it, could you just go, and then get more money? Can you imagine that? If you worked at a job and you were supposed to keep the books on a project or your department or whatever, and the CEO of that company or the president or whoever, the people who ran that company came and said, you failed your audit. And then you went, sorry. And they were like, okay, here's more money. Name a place where that happens. I mean, other than like a Hollywood big budget movie, because they know they're going to make it back or whatever. Like, but where else does this happen? Professional sports, kind of. I mean, I'm reaching for straws here, but where else could you just? We've never passed. How many times have you passed an audit? Oh, never in a million years. I've never passed an audit. Like, what are they doing at the Pentagon? Just bags of blow? What are they, spring break? What are they doing? Oh, wasting money on war. That's what they're doing. Previous attempts in 2018 and 2019 turned up literally thousands of problems. Thousands of problems with the Pentagon's accounting system and millions of dollars worth of missing equipment. Oh, wait. So when people like Joe Biden and Trump and Fox and MSNBC say, how are we going to afford Medicare for all? How are you going to pay for it? They love saying that. How come this is never called into question? I just did a video how Trump's talking about he wants to pull down troops. He's not withdrawing completely, but he's going to pull the troop count down in Afghanistan and Iraq, right? He wants to do that. And immediately, Democrats and Republicans, Mitch McConnell, and what's he doing? Oh, it's going to hurt our readiness and blah, blah. What? No, you guys can't even balance your books correctly, and you want to keep going into war? It's a never-ending money pit. Congress passed a law in 1990 requiring all federal departments to be audited every year. It took nearly 2 decades for the first Pentagon audit to even be attempted. And they failed it. Again. So let's say the IRS came to you in 1990 and said, you got to pay your tax. You need to go to an IRS audit. You're a small business owner. You run a restaurant, whatever, a graphic design company, whatever, little production company. And you got to start getting, it's a law now. You have to be audited. And you went, you got it. And then 20 years go by. See you in 2010. That's when you can attempt to audit me, small business owner, Graham Elwood, small business owner. I'm a small business owner. I have a YouTube channel. I hire some part-time people, right? I'm a small business owner. Before the pandemic, I'd go on the road. I have all these freelance people. I have an editor. I just hired a marketing person. I'd get t-shirts made to sell on the road after shows with Ron Placone. So I'm buying wholesale t-shirts from a little mom and pop t-shirt company. So that's my company. And the IRS says, we want to audit you. And I go, can we do it in 2040? So they get audited. They fail their audits. They can't even they had 20 years before they even were asked after a bill was passed. And yet these assholes, you have to pay income tax on your unemployment insurance. So COVID-19 hits, the government shuts everything down, tells us all we can't work. You get unemployment insurance, okay, but you have to pay taxes on it. But the Pentagon, nah, man, audit. Oh, what's an audit? Was that this year? Can we do it 20 years from now? Yeah, I'm kind of busy just wasting money bombing poor countries for resources. Ooh, yeah, I haven't figured out QuickBooks yet. I mean, it's gonna take me probably 20 years to figure out QuickBooks. Is that cool? See how crazy this sounds when I say it like that? Nobody else could get away with this, but the war machine can. And not only that, they get a new $1.4 trillion discretionary spending bill expected to be passed during the upcoming lame duck session. What do I always tell you? There's a distraction. So Trump hasn't conceded the election, which is a big deal. A president has never done this in my lifetime. I don't think an American president has ever done this. I don't know. A historian might bring something up from the 1800s or something, but to my knowledge, an American president has never said this, right? So then, okay. That's a big story. He's contesting the election. He's even fired people who have said his security expert he just fired said this election wasn't rigged, right? So that's a fairly sizable story, but usually when there's some big distraction, they're passing some bill behind our back. So they're going to get a $1.4 trillion during all of this chaos leading up to the inauguration. Trust me. Every time there's a big story, always ask, what are they not talking about? Well, we're not talking about Ghislaine Maxwell being arrested. We're not talking about Epstein's black book. We're not talking about anything. We're not talking about the 85,000 dead children in Yemen. We're not talking about contaminated water in Flint. Obama just went back to do another fake clean water lie. The guy can't help himself. So a $1.4 trillion discretionary spending bill expected to be passed during the upcoming lame duck session. The Pentagon is expected to get about a $10 billion boost. That's why people cheering in the streets. I get the celebration. Trump's gone. Got it. It's been a tough year with the pandemic. Just want to go celebrate something. But you really think things are going to be so different under Biden and Kamala Harris? You really think that? No. We're going to go back to the business of go to sleep because the tweets are going to be nice. There's going to be great sound bites. Liberals can pat themselves on the back. Yay, we defeated Trump. First female, woman of color, person of color in the VP slot. Great. But they're going to be getting more money and bombing, and nothing's going to change. They're going to we're probably going to go to war with Iran or Venezuela. That's for sure. Because they're provoking Iran, of course. They're begging Iran to do something to get them to go into a fight. Oh, guess what, though? Included in this $1.4 trillion. So wait a minute now. Hold on. Just remember, student debt forgiveness is roughly $1.6 trillion. And that's not even spending taxpayer dollars. 85% of student loans are through the federal government. So it's forgiving them. It's just saying you don't have to pay it back. They already gave the money, and they can just say you don't have to pay it back, which would infuse trillions of dollars into the economy. Now, only roughly 35% of Americans have gone to college or have student debt. So there's a lot of other people that need to be helped. So, but even that money would get infused back into the economy, because now the person with the student loan who was paying whatever their minimum payment was a month, let's just pick a round number, $300, $400 a month is their student loan payment. I'm just picking a round number. Yours might be higher or lower, whatever. I'm just going to pick a number. So now that money that they don't have to, now they can put it back into the economy. They can, so it will help everybody in the economy. Right? So that's what we could be doing with our, so not only could we do student debt forgiveness and it wouldn't cost any taxpayer money, if we stop paying for this crap, like the ridiculous F-35, I've talked about this before, is a $1.5 trillion boondoggle. It was a waste. We don't need this. It's waste. It was overspent. And nobody cares. That doesn't matter. That's because there's no auditing. There's this flim-flam audit. It's like a mob auditor. Oh, everything looks good to me. Wait a minute. There's a bunch of cases of booze going out the back door. No, they're not. Congress is also expected to sign off on the purchase of dozens of new F-35 fighter jets. So you don't have a stimulus bill yet. There's not a new stimulus bill. So they've extended unemployment, but they took away that $300 or $400 extra a month. The $600 extra, a week, the extra $300, $400 a week is gone. The $600 one ended in August. We've gotten one $1,200 check, but we got money for F-35s. I just want so anybody that's waited in a line for a food bank, and God bless these food banks. I just did the story about the one in North Dallas, and amazing volunteers and people donating their hard-earned money. But the Pentagon is going to be buying more F-35s to defend us against what? Why do we need more F-35s? Americans are starving. Americans are living in the street. Americans are food insecure. Americans are living in their cars. There's 28 to 30 million looming foreclosures coming. People are worried how they're going to pay their bills. But we got money for new F-35s, a stupid fighter we don't even need. I'm going to just drill this home every time I talk about the military's budget. Anytime you hear something about war, think about how many schools is that? How many kids could get free college? How many homeless people could we get off the streets? Because I've done numerous videos on this. It costs more to deal with the current system of dealing with homeless shelters, which just provide like a cot for a night or two, police departments having to respond to it, EMT, all that. The costs to deal with our homeless problem right now, which is really a really cruel system right now. The Housing First program costs less. They just did that report. I did a video on that. And in Canada, they did a test study. They gave like 50 homeless people $7,500, and it helped them get them out. It's less money to help the homeless, put them in housing, and that costs less than our current system. And imagine if we had more money for programs like that. People are starving. 25,000 people last week in Dallas lined up in their cars for miles. Every major city can show you food bank lines, just miles and miles, where a helicopter pulls back and it just looks like it's going forever. But we got money for F-35s. Despite the fact that the year's Pentagon audit called the entire F-35 program a material weakness, the auditors called the F-35 program, their words, material weakness. Congress, Democrats control. They're going to stop this. No, of course they this is for Trump. They gave Trump increases to his war budget. They're going to, and the Senate signed off on it. And the democratically controlled Congress is going to give Biden. And if the Senate says Republican, they're going to, it doesn't matter. This is the point I'm telling you. It doesn't matter. Both parties say yes to war. Both parties scream, how are we going to pay for Medicare for all? How are we going to pay for a Green New Deal? Oh, so we got money for dozens of F-35s and to increase the overall war budget, but we don't have money for free healthcare? This country has the money right now in the middle of this pandemic to give everybody free healthcare. Imagine right now, free healthcare in the middle of the pandemic. Boom, done. Student debt forgiveness. Boom, done. $3,000 a month UBI. Done. We could do it. Done. And not a stay on evictions, but how much? You're 6 months back on rent, paid for, done. So the landlords get their money because the landlords are hurting too. Not the big management companies, not the big evil companies, but the like just small management companies are just like, I know so many people who own little investment properties. That was their retirement or whatever. That's their part of their income, or that's their job. Like, hey, my wife and I own 3 or 4, rental properties, and that's how we make it. And no one's paying us rent now, and we don't know what to do. Imagine if the federal government came in, here's that money. So the renter who's 6 months behind, that's off their back. The landowner who's like, they're behind on, everybody's made whole. The whole country would go, oh, okay, we're good. We could do all that. But no, this is what Congress did. This is July of this year, passes $740 billion defense bill. Fight with Trump looms. What fight with Trump? This was up from $738 billion that they gave him in December of 19. Here's what the Pentagon is poised to get. So you think there's a difference between these two parties? Look, these are the contributions. I know it's fine print, but red was who donated to Trump and blue is who donated to Biden. Department of Defense, more gave to Biden. These are all the military donors to the presidential candidates. The war machine is going to keep going on. Trump is pulling troops out of Iraq and Afghanistan. He's not withdrawing all of them. He's just troop drawdowns, just so he can say, I kept a campaign promise, which isn't even true either. If he was literally pulling everyone out, that would be a campaign promise. He's not doing that. But why doesn't the media talk about this? Why do a surfing vegan in his apartment am the one talking about this? Well, I've showed you this before, the propaganda multiplier. The media is not going to call out the White House and the CIA and the Pentagon. Feed the news stories to the 3 major AP, AFP, Reuters, right? And then they funnel it down to all these news organizations. Not only that, companies like Boeing and Raytheon and Northrop Grumman buy ad time on all these networks. So people who make 7-figure incomes, like Rachel Maddow, I literally saw one of her segments last year talking about Russia. Isn't it funny? Quick side note. Suddenly Russia's not no one's talking about Russia. Biden wins and Russia, I guess they didn't hack this election. Had he lost, it would have been Russia. Come on. How convenient. When you win, suddenly Russia, they were talking about Russia leading up to the election like 3 weeks ago. And now, I guess Russia, they couldn't figure this one out. But I literally saw one of Rachel Maddow's Russia segments, which is pushing a Cold War, sponsored by Boeing. They all buy ad time in the major networks, right? All of them. Everybody at Fox, everybody at CNN, everybody at MSNBC, ABC, that's all, you see ads. Why is Raytheon or Boeing or whatever spending ad time Is it like, oh, honey, the new F-18s are here. Let's buy a new F-35. It's got Apple CarPlay with its laser-guided missiles. No, it's to buy consent. They buy all this ad time, so then the journalist goes, well, I'm not really going to talk about this story because I'm going to get pushed back from up top. So these networks, their CEOs push their producers because they're told by this is the talking points. Who warned us about this? This is why we can't have nice things, man. There shouldn't be contaminated water in this country. There shouldn't be people living in the streets. There shouldn't be people lining up for bread lines. Bread lines. I thought that only happened in socialist countries. Evil socialism. Really? The big corporations get socialism. American citizens do not. Dozens of F-35s while people are lining up for food. Because we've given everything to the military-industrial complex. Who warned us about this? Eisenhower. This is a speech he gave.
I come to you with a message of leave-taking and farewell.
This speech did not get very much attention. When a new president is coming to power, as John Kennedy was, the spotlight was not on Dwight Eisenhower.
We have been compelled to create a permanent armaments industry of vast proportions.
There was a feeling at the time that this must have been written by some speechwriter who just sneaked into the speech.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
3 months ago, we got contacted by a family up in Minnesota saying that we have documents from Malcolm Moose. He was responsible in part for drafting the military-industrial complex speech.
These new papers give us written evidence that this was not just some caprice of Eisenhower's or something by some speechwriter.
You see the evolution of his speech from May 1959 to 1961.
And he wanted to give this speech for a long time, 2 years.
Our military organization today bears little relation to that known of any of my predecessors in peacetime, or indeed by the fighting men of World War II or Korea.
There was one person in Dwight Eisenhower's life whom he really confided almost everything to, and that was his brother Milton.
There's one particular document where the speechwriters had already drafted their version of his speech, only to see Milton come along and totally revamp what had already been written.
When Milton Eisenhower was taking notes and writing things on the drafts of these speeches, the speechwriters knew that it wasn't Milton talking, it was Ike.
The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
He would see magazines with advertisements for some new warplane or some bomb, and he got so angry he'd take the magazine and throw it into the fireplace of the Oval Office.
Just to clarify here, so they're talking about Eisenhower saw advertisements for new war machines he started writing that speech in 59. He gave it in 61 as he was leaving office. Kennedy won the 1960 election. He was sworn in January of 61. He knew that. He called this out. This is 60 years ago he called this out. He's got to be rolling in his grave is what we're spending on war. It's got to be insane.
Because he felt that defense spending should not be something that would be encouraged by companies who are seeking commercial gain.
We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes.
There is an interesting document. It shows that the farewell speech will be made to Congress. But yet, President Eisenhower decided, no, he was going to address the people.
Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals, so that security and liberty may prosper together.
One test of how well a president speaks is how long the speech lives. Here we are 50 years later, we're still talking about this speech.
Now, on Friday noon, I am to become a private citizen. I am proud to do so. I look forward to it. Thank you, and good night.
Just like what I've always say on the show, follow the money, connect the dots. And the war machine gets whatever it wants, whenever it wants it. And Eisenhower warned us about it in 1961. Almost 60 years ago. And the corporate media is part of the machine he's talking about. I don't think he could have. What he was afraid of is what we're living in today. He was afraid America was going to become, and he's like, an informed citizenry. Well, that's how they buy. I told you, that's why they buy. This is why they keep the masses uninformed or propagandized, or thinking that I'm a Republican, so I'm on Team Fox. I'm a Democrat. I'm on Team MSNBC. And it's like the war machine controls all of it. If Trump would have won the election, we'd still be bombing. He's not going to pull people out. He might save drawdown tubes. They'd still get him into war. He might bomb Iran before he leaves. It doesn't matter. That's why we need a third party. We need to get out of this. A party like the People's Party or the Green Party or Socialists or somebody that don't take any corporate money. Because that's what Eisenhower was talking about. If it's a for-profit motive, that's the problem. And that model, the for-profit motive, then encourages war. It's the same thing with a for-profit healthcare system. It encourages people to be unhealthy and to spend money. For-profit prison, it encourages, we need more criminals. For-profit healthcare, well, it doesn't matter if we're actually helping people as long as we're making profit. Just like you've heard the stories, like in New York City, they opened extra in like one of the convention centers. They opened extra hospital beds when New York was really bad in March and April. And the hospitals who were overrun, wouldn't release people because they might lose money. So people are dying because it's more profitable. Like, it's insane. It's insane. And it's what Eisenhower talked about. I come to this show to figure that out. So thanks for watching, everybody. We'll keep pushing the truth. And then, great deals out there. No money down, 0 interest on an F-35. Huh? Tell them Graham sent you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please hit the like button, the subscribe button. Go to patreon.com/Graham Elwood and rockfin.com/Graham Elwood, where you can support the show. Also, I have a Bitcoin wallet, a Bitcoin Cash wallet, and an Ethereum wallet in the show notes. We're taking cryptocurrency. I have a Coinbase affiliation link. We're going to be getting on some other exchanges. So that's how you support the show. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. YouTube is unsubscribing us at an alarming rate. I have a PayPal button at GrahamElwood.com. I even have a Venmo at Graham-Elwood. There's a lot of ways to support our show. We are getting crushed by YouTube. We've dipped under 73,000 subscribers because of YouTube. Thanks for supporting what we do.